the August Thursday Nighter, Round 1. I am Michael Perry, and I am pleased to be joined by National Master Okey. And before we look through the games, we, as always, have a few quick announcements. Just rewinding real quick back to last month's Thursday Nighter, we had a 5-way tie for first in the open section, so massive tie. It was a tie between Nathan Hoover, Eric Gollin, Jeremy Kyler, Michael Hainish, and Angela Lee. So congratulations to them. They all finished on 3.5. And for the premier section, it was a 3-way tie. Also, Nathan Hoover appearing again. Surprise, surprise. Also, Edward Wasserman and Andres Hortolosa. So shout out to all 8 of them, or 7 technically, because they appeared on both on both standings. But so good to see all those players playing good chess. Back to our regular announcements. We have the GM Camp and the Roger Hale tournament, August 22nd through the 24th. Make sure to check that out and get in your register before the price goes up. It's only a couple weeks away now, so make sure to register quickly for that. The Grandmaster in question is Robby Kevlishvili, peak FIDE rating of, I believe, like 2550 or thereabouts. So take advantage of that camp on Friday and then play in the Roger Hill tournament on Saturday and Sunday. And there will be discounts if you play in all 3 and if you play in both the camp and the simul after. So check that all out on the flyer there. Our player profile is Michael Muff. He has a peak rating of 2120. He recently won an exerciser quad that included a win over the legendary Dan Boje. That is very nice. His best wins include Nathaniel Graham, Muhammad Tabakovic, James Hove, Edward Zelkind, Kurt Braskett, Nathan Hoover, Todd Partington, and best draws include James Hove and Timothy Lee. So pleased to be covering Michael Muff today. He is playing Ethan Hunt.
Yeah, I guess we'll head on to the game. And I should just mention, I've not had the opportunity to play against Michael Muff, but the list of other names you called out are people I remember from, Master Extra Strength players from so-called yesteryear. So obviously he must have some pedigree there. All right, well, let's see how this game starts off. So it's an invitation to a Benoni, which Ethan declines for the moment, and now it's symmetrical English, and I guess we're moving towards the Maroxy bind versus dragon approach. So far, so normal, it looks like. Okay, and so here, black attacks the C pawn. I think that knight takes d4 might be more common, and a5 might be an idea, but I don't really know much about the theory of this position, so I guess we'll proceed. And now it appears Michael's trying to get b5 in, so it was trying to break down the bind 1 pawn at a time. So first of all, attacking the c4 pawn. And Ethan prevents that. And so the position has become, it seems like there's a lot of shadow boxing going on here. Basically, white doesn't want to exchange off if he doesn't have to, because it feels he has a space advantage. And he's trying to put more and more pressure on the d5 square, since b5 seems well controlled. Basically, black is often trying to play either b5 or d5 as liberating moves here.
Yeah, I like white. I think they're just slightly better. They have more space.
Yes, I tend to agree. And yeah, black. The good thing for black is that he doesn't have any easily assailable weaknesses. Maybe d6, but then a bishop on f8 might be able to hold, as we see now.
Yeah.
And now the question is, how exactly is white making progress? But then black also has the responsibility of not making any mistakes within a somewhat cramped space. So this is where we are right now. And
knight b6 initially. What move was it? Knight b6. That was move.
So here. So move 21.
Yeah, initially struck 21. It initially struck me as odd, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. It just seems like a weird spot for the knight, but it really hampers black's development. He can't double up his rooks on the d file now. He's just kind of more hindered. So I do like that move.
Yeah, I actually had wondered why, and yes, knight b6 does make black's position less comfortable. The rook on b8 for now has no good. Actually, neither rook has a safe move right now. That's just, and he probably doesn't want to. Well, he can't play knight. He can't play knight d7 to exchange it off because it just drops a pawn. And yeah, this is not looking comfortable. I guess along those lines, maybe there's an argument for playing knight d7 now, but then I guess you need to consider exchange sacrifice and also white might just reposition his knight and allow the exchange on b6, whereupon the bishop gets into the b6 square, and black isn't happy there either. So, yeah, I definitely give white the nod here, but I think it's going to be a while before there's a decision here under normal circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, is this? Oh, come on. I'm looking at the time in this game.
We would almost think it was an error if we didn't know the two players' tendencies.
Exactly. So let's start. Let's see how this started. Okay, the exchange Slav, which Dane Zagar is an exponent of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Queen b6. It's a bit spicy.
Mm-hmm.
I think white can play a3 here, maybe, as a way of making the b2 pawn less palatable. E3 is played instead, and I don't know. It looks as if maybe black. So black could probably take the pawn, but I don't know whether the time is worth it. And apparently neither did Jordan.
I'm surprised. That doesn't seem like Jordan. I've played him many times, and I don't know. I would have thought he would have taken that. And maybe this is some theory he knows and I don't, because Queen b6 threw me off, and I just don't get exchange Slav positions. But yeah, I would have thought he would have taken, because I mean you need to deal with your knight first of all. And knight a4, queen b4. I feel like it's worth it, even if you get a bit inconvenienced.
Yeah, I think in this position maybe white plays rook c1. Probably.
Oh, that's just better, yeah.
But then bishop f4, and even if white has maybe a little bit of compensation based on I'm not even sure he has compensation, how much compensation he has. Because it seems like Black's position is really nice. His development isn't hampered. Maybe bishop b5 happens, and maybe can create a weakness on c6. That might be his compensation, but yeah, it's as if white might have gotten away with something there. And then after a3, now I think it's too late to take the pawn because of queen takes b2 and then knight a4, and the queen, I believe, has run out of safe squares. So bishop takes f3, which this was probably the correct time to take on f3 if Black wanted to give white doubled pawns. The reason being that queen takes f3 isn't working because it leaves that guy undefended. And now life is very uncomfortable for white. So this basically forces g takes f3. And now he goes after the bishop on f4. I suppose Black isn't in a hurry. Oh, let's see here. Okay, knight a4, queen d8, and then bishop g5. So it's the position feels, it has this loosey-goosey feel to it. If that's a chess term. So yeah, let's see here. G5. Oh. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that's great. So he's lost a pawn, basically, with the way he played it. And it's not clear that that was necessary. Maybe he just, well, I suppose maybe he's concerned about bishop g3, maybe f4, although that also seems not great, because potentially bishop here can happen, maybe. Excuse me. Worst case scenario. And there's queen d2, there's bishop b5. So
I don't know what f4 was. Maybe he either missed the tactic, which I find hard to believe, or maybe he thought bishop g3 was too passive. I don't know.
Or maybe he came to the conclusion he didn't like. Maybe he misevaluated the weakness of the d4 pawn if he played here, and now this guy is going to be a bit of a bother.
Yeah.
Maybe bishop b5. Oh, but that allows queen a5, knight here. And it's a game, but this guy will be an issue. So that might have been what motivated him. So okay, he's a pawn down, but he has the bishop here. So Eddie might have figured that this was a better deal. And then he has this pressure on both the D and B pawns. And it doesn't seem clear how it's going to be addressed. Huh. Okay. So, well, that's an interesting approach. I had not foreseen 0-0-0 there. So Black is able to hold on to his ill-gotten wealth by this means. I mean, he does have to deal with his king on the queen side, and the bishop on g3 staring into his lair, but he probably calculated and came to the conclusion that the open C file and the bishop looking down h2 to b8 would only amount to just a flesh wound to the Monty Python fans there. So it does seem as if
He's getting his compensation in. Eddie is.
Eddie's got more than. I mean, I love his position here. It just seems maybe this isn't even necessary. Okay, well.
Oh yeah, that is just hanging.
Yeah. I mean, it seems as if once. So, Jordan played rook d8, rook e8 to give, partly to give his queen a safe square because b4 was coming really quick and there was no safe square for the queen. And so maybe this whole thing was a very well thought out idea by Eddie, which might be why he ended up spending so much time, because he's already down to 25 minutes at this point. So I'd like to believe that it was because he was thinking so hard about the possibilities here. Because now all of a sudden, Black's position is pretty critical. It's not at all clear how he gets out of this alive.
No, he's playing this well for sure, and probably taking is just best, taking the pawn, because otherwise Black plays e6, and then you can't take the pawn, and then their king's a bit safer. The bishop can come out. They stop. Yeah, so I think he's playing this quite well.
So here, it's tempting. I mean, of course, my first thought is, does bishop h3 work? And which is what he plays. And e6, knight f6. And so Black has it's got issues. This is not a fun position.
This reminds me of a game I used. Well, I guess I still have it. I used to play it a little bit. I don't remember what it was called. Was it solitaire chess? I don't remember exactly, but it was basically a game where it was a 4x4 grid board, and the goal of the game was just try to make as many captures as you can. It has to be a capture every single move. So I wasn't a beginner at chess, but it was just like some fun quote unquote chess game, and you just kind of help players learn the basics. So find a capture every single move, and that's what this position reminded me of, because it's like, oh, you take his rook, he takes your rook, you take his knight on b8, then the king takes on b8. It's like every move's a capture.
Yeah, this is unreal. It's like, everything just turned around after that castling move. It seems like, and so it again. I don't know. Well, let's continue, because as soon as the game is ended, so let's see how Eddie finished it off. So he's now down to 9 minutes against Jordan's hour and 19. Okay, trying to block out the bishop and kick the knight away. The knight says, no, I'm not leaving just yet. And the bishop says, oh, I got another road into the position. And it seems like at the moment, Black's king is stalemated. So a pinprick will be made. And yeah, so, wow, that was violent.
Yeah, very.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out exactly. Yeah.
I'm guessing that queenside castles of Black was just a big no-no. I mean, everything after that went downhill. It seemed like Jordan had a fine position until that.
The position up to here in his calculations. Because the problem now is the only way I can see for black to maintain his pawn advantage is to castle queenside. And so maybe at this point, black has to decide the best way to give up the material. To give back the material, I
wonder if
should
you
say.
can. Yeah, I wonder if you can just go queen d7. I
So
guess
queen
knight d4
d7
is a bit annoying.
Yeah,
Yeah,
queen d7
knight
falls
d5.
to knight c5, and
True.
yeah, this
I mean, you
is
might
not.
have. Yeah, that can't be good.
Are you talking about knight a4 here?
I actually didn't look at
If
that,
knight
but
a4, if knight a4, then I think
queen b4, and it's probably just.
queen b4 is probably doing the business, because there's no great way to. Yeah, this is okay. So let's see. Yeah, so maybe somewhere around here he has to give back the pawn, because once he does this, everything just falls apart. There's well, let's see. So queen d1. Maybe this is a chance. No, but everything works like clockwork. Maybe e6. But that's also seems bad because the rook's still on a1, and if you sack twice on b4, the queen has to capture back on b4, not the bishop. So,
I'm looking at e5. Classic wisdom
e5.
tells you when your opponent's
e5.
Your castle, then your when you're castled, then your
Okay.
opponent isn't. General wisdom tells you to break open the center as quickly as possible, and you need something quick. So maybe this is an option. Yeah, and then b4.
So if we do b4, this seems like it'll be painful for it looks like this might be painful for black. Because where's the queen going to go to?
I guess we probably have to go to queen c. Probably have to go to c7.
So if c7 happens, then I suppose we can play bishop h3, check, or maybe not even that. Maybe just play rook here first. Well, I think bishop h3 first makes sense. Let's do bishop h3, and then if king to the side, then
I'm not seeing it right away in this line. Maybe it's a way to play because you want to play b5 right away, but obviously then just the knight moves, and there's just potential discoveries on the c3 knight. So
yeah, that's the thing, is I'm trying to find the smoothest way, and also not allow f5 blocking out, ready to block out the bishop with f4, which is why I was looking at bishop h3. I suppose rook c1 is already threatening b5, though.
true.
Right.
Yeah, maybe just rook c1 now.
Maybe rook c1 now. And
I mean, this is just getting into crazy lines, but I think maybe we can try knight. Can we try knight takes? Yeah, can we try knight takes b4 here though?
Knight takes b4?
Yeah. Yeah. And point being, if they just try a discovery, we can sack our queen on c1 and oh wait, no, that's no fork there.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm
maybe
trying
they
to
just
see if we
knight
can
b5
play
here.
knight b5 here.
Yeah, I'm hallucinating. Yeah, no, this is bad.
But yeah, e5 might be the best way to throw sand into the gears of White's attack. At least it seems on principle to allow the king to escape to b8 and maybe a8. But all the same, it just seems like White is more comfortable there. Yeah, there's no. Is b6 working? I mean, whatever happens, he's losing a pawn right here, right? Yeah, bishop h3 was very well timed, and it just so happens the king has to hang around the rook to give it support, so that move becomes forced. And then the interesting geometry of the position means that he needs to leave the knight behind. I wonder if there's probably no advantage to complicating things. Just capture first and ask questions later. Yeah, this is harsh, but both of these guys are top-notch fighters. I'm sure on any given day, any given person could win, type of thing. Kind of like the NFL a couple of years ago when everyone was talking about parity. All right, well, another game that probably will be will not be accused of being boring is well, any game involving Robert Donahue and Nate Hoover's been playing some very effective chess the last couple of months. I think his has his USCF gotten back to 2200 now.
You know, I'm gonna check on that. He has been doing well. Maybe get started on the analysis and I'll update folks.
Okay. So we have another invitation to a Benoni, and this time the invitation was accepted. And then we have Robert Donahue's flavor, b5 immediately. More often, Black would play it this way, and then maybe after here, then maybe go towards a Benko with this, probably. Oh, that seems like a strange move order. Okay, no, that probably is okay. So b5, I'm not sure how popular that is, but it seems consistent with the sort of chess Robert likes to play. In fact, I think I remember him playing b5 against me many, many years ago, where I started off knight f3, and there was an early b5 there. Anyhow, the way this game went, that's clever. So Nathan goes into, sort of transposes into a line of the Benko that I used to like playing as white, which it's not a direct transposition, but it's similar. So like d4, f6, c4, here, 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 and then there are two ways. There are two similar approaches. One is here, and the other is here. Basically, in both cases, letting Black capture on the c4, and then recuperating the pawn later with a better pawn structure, more space on the queen side. So c4, that's interesting. Here.
An update on Nate. He's currently 2157. So not quite there, but he's He's definitely been doing really well in the Thursday nighters.
Nice. Yeah. So this is an interesting decision by Robert, this G5 business. Let's see what's going on here. This is like a double banco, if you may. I don't know. Or the
Yeah,
double
no
G pawn
clue.
sack. Or the no, not double G pawn. I'm mixing notation systems. The double knight pawn sack, right? At least offer. So then knight G5, H6. Okay. Nate is here to play as well. So does that pretty much force Queen F6 or Queen G6? So Robert chooses Queen D6, which I doubt he played with any kind of pleasure, because he's not wanting to exchange of queens this early, I don't think. And then the knight is now well placed to gang up on the C pawn, as does happen. So then capture. And so after the smoke is cleared, white is a pawn up and has what to me appears the better position. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we have the classic Connect 4, which I'm going to give credit to Hikaru, because that's what he dubs it. Maybe he got that
Okay.
from somewhere, but we have the nice pawn chain from G2 to D5. So you have the Connect 4, you're surely better. So I'm going to go with white.
Okay. That's a different metric I hadn't considered before. But thanks for mentioning it.
Yeah.
Okay. So trying to open up the G file to start his attack against black's king side. And Robert replies with that. So that's a second pawn. And it's not clear if he has any compensation. I mean, okay. Black is offering white the opportunity to lose material if you were to play bishop takes and then pawn takes. And now there are two pieces on Priya's. So, but Nate's not going to agree to that and runs away with his bishop. And now e5. And so here, there are a couple of different possibilities that white could consider. Nate decided to play a4. And I was wondering about opening up the position further, although I suppose white's development isn't perfect yet, so maybe he wants to close things down first, get his pieces ready for play, and then look to open the position, because black really can't prevent him from opening the position in the center. Not that he needs to, because he already has a half-open G file to play with at some point. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so that's sharp. And it seems to be the reason Robert didn't play rook takes is because this is winning the exchange. And so he plays a5 in order to give the rook an extra square. And so now Nathan is in consolidation mode. So threatening. So now his bishop is well placed on d6, attacking 2 targets, well, 3, including the knight, on b8, which at this moment does not have a safe square. So I guess we're probably going to be talking about the concept of domination in terms of black's queenside pieces.
Yeah, it's a really odd looking position, but I guess that's what you'd expect when we had the opening that we did, which was, like you said, a double knight pawn sacrifice.
Yes. So and this actually has another interesting characteristic. Both players have 3 or more pieces on the back rank by move 26. Just a weird factoid there.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of nice for Robert that the position is so closed right now. It's so locked down because he is just down 2 pawns. So if things ever open up, it's only going to benefit Nate. So
Yes.
Robert's holding on for now, but we'll see how much longer he can.
Which, by the way, somehow this script seems familiar to me. It's as if maybe Robert has had a position like this where he's material down, but it's not easy to break in. And then at some point he opens things up. And it ends up being his downfall. So okay, black induced b6, which opens up the square for the knight on b8, but then removes any safe squares for the rook on b7. This is just cruel and unusual punishment. I can imagine a bishop going to c7 and then knight b6 being kind of painful at some point. Yeah, maybe that point is right now, actually. Okay. Well, he wants to get his other rook into the game. And knight b6 was threatened. Sorry, knight g3 was threatened. So he figured, okay, well, he can take the bishop, but I want to get my rook into the game properly. So yeah, so here, what?
I actually like that.
Nice.
I'm sure computer doesn't approve. I'm sure there's better moves, but it just practical way. I mean, you're up so much material. You have 2 points of material going into it. It's, might as well.
Well, I was wondering though if he could achieve the same thing by just playing here and knight b6.
Good point.
I mean, I'm not against removing. I mean, the knight on b4 is annoying, but is bishop c7 just doing the trick? It's not clear.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see how he's saving his rook, and this time you don't have to sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay, this I guess gets some style points maybe. Yeah, that's the other problem with the rook with the exchange sacrifice is now the rook on a8 has undeserved activity. Yeah, so now Robert is going to try and milk his mini liberation for what it's worth. But Nate has a steady hand, and now he's threatening rook b8.
Uh-oh. Wow.
So there must be some society to help protect against injustices to rooks, because the black's rooks in this game have not been treated nice at all. So now we're at the
No.
game position, and okay, I think this will be done relatively soon.
Yeah, I don't know why he's thinking here.
Maybe he's focused on his, because I'm sure he's doing another simul, so he might be over at the board of his second game.
Let me check. He might be, yeah. He's not on another DGT board though, so he could just be playing, yeah, in the open sec. No, he's not another DGT, so.
So he could be playing the open section. We just don't have the camera to see.
Yeah.
Okay, there's some weirdness on this board because it claims Andy Hortolosa has no time left. Let me refresh. Okay, well, let's see how the game got here. So we got, oh no. So Andy has joined. So Andy used to play Torre, and I think he played London. And I guess now he's playing Yobava London, which is also a specialty of Jordan Tim. Okay. This is an interesting pawn structure. Oh, so white is going to hold on to the pawn. Now this gets even more interesting because I'm not sure what in the world is that.
I know.
So this game is just giving me surprises. What happens after pawn takes pawn? First of all, I guess that's the obvious move to try and hold on to material is pawn takes pawn. Is that just giving black too much play?
It could be, but I'm materialistic. I would probably just play that.
Yeah, I mean the principle of the state of my birth is you need to show me why. This is just c6. So what's the idea? I guess just to leave the pawn on b6. Maybe there's some positional idea that you don't want the knight on d7 to have an easy route to the game, which he would if you captured on b6. So maybe that's what Andy's idea is. But all right, let's see how the game went. There. So it has a kind of French defense feel to it, which I know Dane had a few seasons where he played the French as black, but has this the French feel where white has given up his d pawn and maybe his e pawn, but is trying to overprotect, control the central squares with pieces rather than occupy the center. And now things are beginning to look weird. So maybe f5.
Good, in my opinion, for black.
Yes, exactly. They look good, very good for black. Black is living for these pawns in these French type positions. So it's interesting to see what Andy has up his sleeve, if anything. All right, so he's probably looking to get f6 in, maybe get quick g5 in. So Okay. Dane was not interested in trying this out, but let's take a look ourselves and see if Black can do this and survive. So queen here. And pawn push, maybe? And so how does white continue the attack?
I think you at least wait. I mean, you can take everything on G6, right?
So G6, so you can take everything on G6. Yeah. Yeah, this is bad. Okay. So that answers that question. So Black was circumspect, was correct to be circumspect, because this literally forces the exchange of queens. It would seem. Except for when it doesn't. Isn't this just giving up a piece for nothing?
Maybe not nothing, but yeah, I definitely favor Black here. Oh, and that's a nice move. I didn't even see that. Nice
yeah,
move.
that's why I said it looks like it's giving it up for nothing, unless F6 is doing major work here.
Yeah,
so
you
this
have
is the
to play
question.
F6, yeah.
And now is Queen H6 work? Oh, if Queen H6, then I was even looking at Knight F6, but this is even more brutal. And now c'est fini.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you might remember this as the day he almost checkmated in Zagar, but I don't think it's happening today. This is
Not today.
Not today. I'm sorry. So I believe we're going to be seeing 0-1 on that board. All right, let's see.
Yeah, I'm guessing he just resigned, and it's another DGT board error where maybe it's just slow to update doing his own.
Yeah. That makes sense. But actually, let's look at how should I call it, the splendor of this position. It's like, you're talking about the one variant where you're capturing this piece, then capturing this piece, and capturing this piece. This position, White was attacking, going for the king, and fortunately for him, maybe Black could only capture one piece at a time after already being up a piece, because the queen's attacked, the bishop on D3 is attacked, the knight on H5 is attacked. It's like everything.
Yeah, everything's hanging in this one.
The only things that are safe are the rooks, and I'm not sure they're happy with their fate, because they'd rather be helping out their teammates. But yeah, this is a crazy finishing position, and Dane definitely showed nice active defensive skills in this one. So, all right, let's see Tom Babcock and Sima Sokolovskaya, who I haven't seen her play in a while. Although someone mentioned that she has been playing sporadically. So we'll start off with her trusty E4. And we're going into an open Sicilian. And now we're going into a different kind of Maroczy bind. Okay. So this is a somewhat well-known tactic, and it works because of this setup here. So it's not really a true piece sacrifice. It does result in White getting, hopefully owning the C-file and leaving the D6 pawn isolated if exchanges occur on the D5 square. So for example, if pawn takes pawn, then pawn takes pawn, and this guy is doomed, and then maybe white is able to get knight f5 and other moves in later on, depending on how black responds. So instead, Thomas retreats, allowing his bishop to be captured. And now he has a somewhat tender d6 pawn on the d6 square. And so it'll be curious to see how Seema tries to take advantage of that. Okay, so her plan would appear is to bring the bishop back to g3 eventually, unless there's no reason to do so. Now, this is an interesting moment. It's probably not necessary. I was wondering if white should consider bishop takes knight here, but I think the slow approach with knight c2 makes sense. The idea is this has now become nice, and this is still weak, and actually has no hope of advancing unless some special circumstances come up.
Yeah, I'm a little unsure about knight c2. I'm not completely against it, but I kind of liked just taking the knight on c6 because, I mean, I initially thought, okay, what if we can go knight c2 and then knight e3 and then knight d5, like try to completely reroute it, but then black can just hop their knight into d4. So I'm just thought, okay, let's just take, because when we retreated to c2, it's like, okay, I'm kind of stopping your knight. I'm stopping you from coming into d4, but my knight's just slightly worse than yours right now. So why not just trade it? I was also looking though at, I mean, we could potentially play knight b4 after black plays something, and then get to d5 quicker. But then same point, they still can hop into d4. But
yeah, it's I guess it's a matter of taste. It's possible that maybe white is anticipating g5 is happening and bishop f2 is going to happen, which will be controlling d4 after the knight gets to d5. And maybe she didn't want to risk like changing the pawn structure like this, although I think white isn't doing too badly anyway after something like that. And then, so if here, now the question is, who has the worst pawn structure after this? Basically forcing
definitely
this.
black.
And, and I think any resemblance to Swiss cheese is completely coincidental in terms of black's weaknesses all over the board. So yeah, knight takes c6 actually would be an interesting approach. And the more I look at it, so maybe bishop here doesn't suffer the same fate.
Maybe she didn't like if the pawn took, and then you could eventually blast with d5. Eventually.
So the pawn taking is the line we just looked at with this.
Oh, pardon me. You're that right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe though, can we? Yeah, it's probably
here, I think you can just play.
Yeah, that's probably
there.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably too much.
Too bad.
Yes. So, but I think she's playing. Yeah, maybe knight c2 is a bit formulaic, if that's a word I can use. And now this has turned out swimmingly for white, who has the connect 4 and the bishop pair. So what else is there to ask for, right?
Yeah. I think with the connect 4 though, the bishop pair isn't as good because you have, I mean, your dark square bishops don't have a nice diagonal to look at, but your light square bishop is a bit more walled in.
True. That is quite correct. Although black is often going to try to liberate themselves, which might give the opportunity to exchange the bishop off, like here. Then the question becomes now. Although I'm not sure I agree with her decision, because capture on f5 also means the pawn on d5 becomes a bit weaker, which may be a factor later on, especially after exchanging off bishops. Now Thomas goes here because he wants his queen on f5. That way he doesn't give up the. That way he's not giving up the c file. Or at least that's what it was in theory. So now there's a double attack against b7 and d6. Oh, there's a bit of a back rank weakness for white. So if he tries to capture on d6, then he coughs up a bishop and then coughs up the king. So that was the method to the madness there for queen c7, which is important to put the queen there because that leaves d7 open for the knight to get into the game, which it needs to get into the game at some moment. Now, I don't know if, well, okay, I guess it's the same issue. If bishop d6, trying to dislocate the queen, maybe this becomes an issue. Or so Seema creates some luft for the king while also weakening black's kingside position. And just like that, he's winning a pawn. She's winning a pawn, sorry. I'm mixing up my pronouns here. So, yeah, this is actually pretty tough now. Although the weakness on f6, on d5 might still play a role, or maybe not. Okay, I think Seema is
in
the driver's
She
seat.
probably didn't want to allow this. Yeah.
So the question now, well, one question is how best to prosecute the attack. I was looking at queen h3 as my first choice to try and prevent the king from escaping to the queen side, but maybe this works just as well. Okay, let's go back a few moves. So oh, okay. So yeah, so here after queen f7, now queen here, and it seems as if this might. Well, I suppose king g6 and things become a little less clear. So, all right, well, let's see how Seema did it. So materially, white's a pawn up, but it's a doubled isolated pawn. He has a bishop pair. Yeah, I don't know. It seems like it seems like white is for choice, but black has his resources as well. So, all right, let's see what's going on between Bad Swigum and Michael Flaherty. So that ended in a win for Mr. Swigum. So we have a Queen's Indian, Petrosian variation.
Not common.
Yeah, not as common as it was. I mean, it was all the rage back in the 80s and to some extent into the 90s when Kasparov was bringing some new ideas to bear on the white side of this. This D5 immediately. I don't know the theory really too far. So I don't know if this is normal. You know what? I'm going to ask a friend. So after this, I suppose D5 is the main move here, although calling it the Alvis Vitalic and Leonid Goffstein. I wonder if this position right here has only occurred once in the big database, which makes me wonder if white should be considering E4 here to have a stronger white in the center.
Yeah.
And so, and that way, you know, you can get D5 in and have. Okay, anyway, let's get back to the game. So, wow, I really like white's position here. This is actually pretty nice.
Yeah,
somehow, yeah, somehow with purposeful, efficient moves, white has all sorts of light square weaknesses to take advantage of, and wisely didn't force his bishop out because his bishop has nothing to do. It's probably just fine on C1, and maybe now can look at going to B2. So it's going to be looks very difficult for black to break out here. And then the knight goes to G6, which could be pretty troublesome for the knight. The G6 is often an unfortunate square for a knight. And yeah, now it just seems like there's no debate as to who won the opening battle here between the two between the two contestants. So let's see, 4. Oh, that's a nifty maneuver. Bring the queen to a more centralized square and tickling the pawn on A6. So even if black is able to get C6 in, he might end up losing the A6 pawn, which is probably what's going to happen next. Oh.
Yeah, I mean
that's even more mean-spirited.
Yeah, that's mean-spirited. I mean, even before this position, it was just very tough for black. You're so cramped. White has great piece mobility. I mean, white has great piece mobility, and I mean, it's one of those positions where you basically just want to play it blindfold as black. You just I don't want to look at this. I'll just I don't even want to see it. I'll just or hand and brain. Let's get someone over here. I'm gonna move my bishop somewhere. I don't know.
You get the impression that, at least if I were in control of Black's position, I'd be filing paperwork to disown this position. I have nothing to do with this position, and maybe legally known. No, this is a tough position, and Thad really played the opening very, very well, I feel. And now it's about to reap the rewards. This e5, and now something is dropping. And now more is dropping. Well, Michael threw in the towel here, so it's also a nice win for Mrs. Swigum. And let's see, we've got Noah Stewart versus, I'm going to probably mess up this name, Buvi Nainika, Tutika. And they've got an end game that only one person can win. So let's see how we got here. So in Spanish with the old Steinitz defense. And now it's kind of like a four knights. There's so many transpositions in these e4, e5 openings that at some point I decided I wasn't even going to bother remembering which is which, because they all turn into the same thing at the end of the day. At least that's how it felt to me. Okay, that's a nice move, tempting Black to exchange on e5, whereupon Black will have to deal with the doubled isolated c-pawns, and that's what happens. And so at this point, White is definitely for choice if this game goes to an ending. Okay, that's clever. So the knight can't be munched on the move right now because of the queen's pin against the pawn on c6, x-raying the rook on a8. If the rook were to move, then potentially the pawn on a7 falls. Well, one question is what happens if Black plays something else, like knight d5, which is what happened. So now he's threatening to potentially capture the knight on b5. Okay, albeit it won't be free, but he does. Black does manage to undouble the pawns. So there is a small threat of knight takes c6 and rook takes d5, winning a pawn. And Black responds by moving the knight back to b6. And now doubling up on the c-pawn. Okay, so Black seems to have a slightly worse position, but also seems to be managing to keep the weaknesses within a safe zone for the moment. And Black then tries to exchange off a pair of rooks, a6, which is kind of smart. So Black might be hoping that White plays queen takes d6, straightening out the pawns. And so they're sort of staring at each other until White finally acquiesces in the capture on d6, booting off. So this is actually an interesting endgame, I think. Well timed by Noah. Well timed. So if if black is going to get his pawn to d5, he'll be left with an isolated d pawn, isolated c pawn. And so even though black may be able to hold this, it's going to be a major chore. Okay, so this is definitely a position.
He was taking advantage of the fact that white couldn't go king d3 because then knight f4 check. And you're
yes.
I mean, in hindsight, that you could still consider going for it because you could hope that your 2-on-1 majority would be quicker than black's 3-on-2. But I don't know.
But there's no need. There's no need for any extra gymnastics because just playing it simply like this, the tempi mean that white's king is going to get to the center first. The pawn on c5 is still weak and for the moment immobile. And then after this, now I just feel that black is in serious trouble. It's probably, you can probably hold it, but it's going to be hard. And now after this, yeah, now if the knight has to sit back,
I think I was just going to say what you're going to say, but yeah, I don't like knight d4 because your knight was there to play knight f4, and now I don't see what you're threatening when you go knight d4.
Exactly. So if, in other words, if so this is where we are here. If you're presented with this position, then you're probably wanting to play back to e6 anyway, so to give the knight the opportunity to get to f4. But with this move order, now black is a lot worse, with that being one issue. Now, I don't know if knight f4 would have made things any better. It seems like these three might be too slow compared to these guys.
Yes, I would highly think so. I mean, you might as well try it because you're gonna lose your. I mean, yeah.
So, and she. So is knight f4 still a thing? Maybe.
Yeah, you should probably play it now because otherwise we just play white plays g3 and knight a4 or something along those lines.
Because this seems a bit too passive, and this seems almost. So we're going to have a classic fox and a chicken coop. Oh, well, I guess that's a different way of doing it. It still works, but in case folks are wondering what I was talking about, the fox and the chicken coop is where one king is distracted by major affairs of some sort, and then the other king is like a fox going after these chickens here with the chicken coop door open, because the king who should be defending his chickens is out in the field doing something else. So after this, one approach would be king here. And it just so happens that leaving these two pawns where they are makes them a little bit stronger, because it means that this guy has to travel here just to get the first one. And in the meantime, maybe white is able to win all the pawns on the king's side and then promote. But
yeah,
the way Noah did it is also perfectly fine. I think just
either way works, but yeah, king e7 is definitely much more precise. And even in the line you calculated, I mean, after king c2, white plays a4, and we don't have.
Yes.
I think a4 is also just very good there. So it's
yeah. So yeah, in this line here, yeah, with once this guy gets here, yeah, now it's a runaway. In fact, as soon as he gets to c4, there's so many ways of playing it, but yeah, the way Noah did it is fine. And I think at some point we have to, because there's time is a major element in the game. There are a number of different ways to solve a problem. You select one that you know works and just go with it. Sometimes spending 20 minutes trying to find the mate in 14 isn't worth it if you can just win a person's queen and then win easily in 20 moves. I don't know. One of the 20 moves are like go to sleep moves where you don't even have to really think. But yeah, this seems like we're ending up with a fox in the chicken coop, except for that the black king, is even further out. So, yep. And that's all she wrote. And that was a good win for Noah. So we have Drew Johnson versus Eric Galan. And let's see what we've got here. We have an English reverse Sicilian, which this approach will often lead to a reversed dragon Sicilian. So that's an interesting idea. White is offering his B pawn to black so that he can get black's E pawn in return, and therefore have more pawns in the center, which hopefully will give him an advantage. And so he protects the pawn. He could also have considered b5, although I think playing conservative like this looks fine. And d3. Okay, so black is now trying to go gangbusters on the king's side with his pawns. And it's not clear what white's plan is. Is he planning to play for d4? Is he planning to play e4 to try and slow down the pawns? Although I think e4 in this position might result in f4, and then white is even in more pains, so to speak. So Eric is battening down the hatches to some extent. And by the way, I should point out that he's angling for d4 as his break, which is what happens here. And yeah, now we have a weird sort of reversed French position, right? Where black has given up his d5 pawn but controls the square and has gotten in reverse. It would be f4, planning for f5 next. And I'm not sure I like that. So what's the idea here? I would have thought that black's plan would involve maybe f4. So, all right, well, maybe he's planning to play queen g5 or h4, h5, and wants a queen to contribute. Mr. Johnson isn't messing around here. He's trying to get some action going.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-oh.
I definitely prefer his position. He has more space. White's light square bishop on g2 is very weak.
But an accident just occurred.
Oh no,
How are
he
we
took on b5.
Yeah. How are we defending? How are we defending the knight? So, yeah, this is harsh.
Wow, yeah, removal of the defender tactic, which could have been
Yeah.
avoided, but
So let's see how we could have avoided it. Okay, so if you place pawn takes just as a trial, and then here, still have to deal with that potential pin. Maybe capture. Oh, actually, maybe just get your king out of the way. Although that leaves
yeah.
this guy hanging. Let's see. After b5, because it would seem weird to me that this is automatically losing. Well, I guess he does have 97. So let's see if there's a way to increase the pressure.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I think another option is maybe even as soon as white plays b5, just play king h7 right away and just say,
Well, it
okay, take
seems
my pawn. That's not
yes.
a very good pawn I'm giving you. And I mean, my position is still solid. I might just even play f4 at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying it works, but it's something you always need to look out for if you're white. So just avoiding
Well,
that pin altogether.
actually, it looks as if black found a way to defend himself. Um,
Wait.
yeah,
Oh,
it
did
seems that
we?
black. So basically, he defended the knight, and there's no way to increase the pressure on the knight, right? So then he tries for that with the hope that maybe black will play pawn takes pawn and then have double pawns. And then Mr. Johnson responds with a5, which I think is a fairly decent move. Maybe white has to roll dice with knight c6, but seems like that might be a bit risky. So he plays for this, allowing a queen exchange, but then hoping to take advantage of the pin of the bishop against the knight and rook. So this happens. And now there's a major question. How do you... If you're white here, how are you handling this? Rook c1 seems reasonable to try and get a rook to the 7th.
Yeah.
But it turns out that it
I
only
feel like
leads
it's
to...
one of those positions where black is just better and white can't do much about it.
Well, at this point, maybe not so clear.
I mean, I guess white can, relocate the bishop.
Yeah, white can relocate the bishop and could also, capture on h4 and then maybe play h3. And then black has to worry about the pawns on e and f. And white does have a passed pawn already. Although black has a passed pawn, but black's passed pawn seems less likely to make progress at this moment. It might change in the future. But okay, he comes out here, and now that seems... moving the pawn to h3 seems a bit double-edged to me. Because you could have... You need to always be on the lookout now for white's attempts to win f5, g4, and h3 with his bishop.
Yeah, I don't like H3 either. I remember alarm bells go off when I see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think he just should have taken on G3. It just doesn't. My intuition tells me that that's not a good move.
yeah, that seems like it was pretty risky. And now, um, he can make some progress, I think, with the bishop check and then bishop c7. With the idea of the bishop check being to kick the king away, and then so I'm looking at. Oh, actually, it was played in the game: bishop here, and then bishop there, and then bishop there. So the idea being that we're trying to chase the king away and make it where we can get an entrance to e6 with our bishop, which then attacks the knight, which can no longer defend the pawn on b6. And yeah, bishop there.
Very nice.
Very nice. Yeah, here I'm
Oh,
thinking, I was thinking this was possible, but then maybe he's concerned about here. But after bishop here, it's not clear. I guess he has knight here.
yeah, that's one way to defend. Yeah,
So maybe
you
that's
also
why he's
always need
trying to get his. Yep.
whenever you go after that b6 pawn, you also just need to be very careful about the a pawn running, because
Yes. And
White's trying to win that pawn using both of his bishops, but then you
yes.
lose some eyesight on the a pawn. So maybe that's partially why he didn't decide to take or decide to pressure even more.
Yes. And bring his king closer to the queen side. Because the king is actually -1 sitting on f1. It's not contributing at all to the game. So bring the king to e1. I mean, the pawns on the queen side are not running away, so there's no need to launch the final attack until he's fully ready. Although the way the game is going now, maybe.
Whoa.
So
I guess you have to. Yeah.
Drew is playing very very purposefully here. So the king was doing something on f1, protecting the kingside pawn. And now it's going to be a question, can White even make progress? And maybe the answer is not, because now,
Yeah, it seems tough for either player to really break through.
Eric might be in trouble here, actually.
Oh yeah, now he's in trouble. Yeah, maybe. Hmm.
Let's see.
I wonder if I briefly I wonder if there's any merit to King D2 on move 61. So on move 61, he played Bishop F6. Because I felt like this might be holdable, and I'm just obviously going on instincts because we're scrolling through it fairly quickly. But
Yes,
because I'm trying to, it looked okay for White, and then all of a sudden it looked obviously lost. So I'm trying to figure out where that happened. On move
I
61.
think,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I don't know. Let's go back, because I think the d5 idea was wrong. It just seemed like the d5 idea here. Sorry, not here. That just seemed like that might have been wrong. Because without the d5 move, the black king doesn't have ready access to c5, among other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that at least from that angle, white is somewhat safe. But it does seem as if it changes the narrative around, because all of a sudden, where it seemed as if white was the one playing for 2 results, now there are 3 results on the table. And then after d5, which ostensibly was to get the bishop back into the game, maybe, but I think weakening both e5 and c5 ends up costing. So here, yeah, at this moment, it seems as if things are probably already off the rails for white. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. It had to have been earlier than that point.
Yeah, I think playing d5 might have been the thing. Let's go back.
Yeah,
See
I
if there's
agree.
any earlier. Yeah, so up to here, but I think part of the problem now is being objective. If you're the player of the white pieces, is being objective and realizing you might have made a mistake somewhere and accept the fact that you might need to play for a draw. And one of the easier ways of playing for that draw is to exchange off your dark square bishop for his knight. If you can do that, and then create a force field where black's king can't come in, which would exist if, say, knight d6, bishop takes d6, king d6. So say if this were to happen, then white quickly captures here and captures here. And as long as this diagonal is covered, the black king is not getting into this position, it would seem.
Yeah, white should never lose this.
Yeah. But it's hard when it seems like you've had this promising position and the textbooks will claim that you have some sort of advantage because of the 2 bishops. And so you might want to push. And I don't know what the rating differences between the players here, if that might have played a role at all.
Yeah, I believe Drew is up to 1500, or at least that's what his posted is.
Okay.
He's a very improving player, and then Eric is mid to high 1800s, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So here, my preference, if you're going to move the bishop away, my preference would probably be to play here so that you can pin the knight after this, although I'm not sure if that even, how much that does for, well, I suppose still problematic. Maybe now we go here. And so the idea is to keep this square under control so the king can't get there. But it's already becoming a little bit difficult. So let's see what happened in the game. Yeah, so if king takes d6 wrong in this position, just taking here. Well, I should note that Mr. Johnson is down to 4 minutes in this position. So maybe his calculation is becoming a little bit, he's more reacting than calculating. Let's go. So we have this. And now we have a bishop of opposite color position that is probably drawn. Actually, maybe I changed the prognosis after that series. at this point, maybe all three results are still possible, because if bishop f5, so bishop takes e4 was played, and it's not clear. White could win this, and not just because he's down to 3 minutes here. So let's see. We still have a couple games going. So we have Andy versus Dane. Oh no, that's actually finished, isn't it? So we have Seema versus Mr. Babcock. So let's see how this went. We left the position around here. So let's see how this went. Oh, that seems a little bit cooperative. It would seem that that white should be better in this endgame.
Yeah, when we were looking at this game earlier, I was just a little surprised that, I mean, white looked better to my eyes, and I was trying to figure out a way for white to make progress, but I couldn't quite see it. So I think if my brief observations were correct, I think it just made one of those positions where white looks better, but it's hard in practice to actually gain any advantage from it. Like I'm talking back when the queens were on the board, and yes. now, I mean, now it's just, yeah, this should be winning for white, I would assume.
So I'll spit out a few, I guess, urban chess legends regarding the endgame. So when we have a position like this, allegedly, the queen and knight tend to cooperate a bit better than the queen and bishop in these stark kind of endgames, especially if the pawns are on the same side of the board. But with the kings a bit open, that I think is true, that black might have superior practical chances. Now, once the queens get exchanged, now I have a situation where it's bishop versus knight, and the pawns are on both sides of the board, which theoretically should favor the long-range bishop. Okay, every position has its own dynamics, and black does have a passed pawn on d6, which could be a factor. Maybe one of white's plans could be playing g3 or g4 right off the bat, so as to create their own passed pawn and start getting that moving. But okay, this slow process seems okay. And we've achieved the passed pawn. Maybe
as black here, if black's trying to win, then fine. But I was just considering black was playing for the draw, because I thought white was better, at least in some position we had just reached. So I was just looking at scenarios where we can win both pawns on the king side, and then just hide our king on a8. And since both pawns are, that classic scenario where both pawns opposite color of the bishop. So as soon as let me go back a couple moves here. Basically, once they played king g4, right here. I mean, we just play knight e3, takes, knight takes g2, and then it should be pretty simple for us to pick up the f pawn.
Yeah. And then we just sack and wait on the a8 cubbyhole.
Yeah.
That's actually a very nice observation, because the bishop is on the wrong color of the promoting square for white's remaining pawn. And yeah, I suspect that if you can get the knight to d5, for example, he'll just lay in wait for the pawn to make it to f4, give up its life for a noble cause, and then black gets to go home with a draw. So
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that would have been I think an easier way to achieve the draw. But maybe black is playing with more ambition and feels that with their d pawn and bishop versus knight, that maybe they feel they have a win. Because it isn't trivial to stop the pawn, it doesn't seem. But now things are looking a bit dicey. And again, the pawns on both sides of the board means the bishop has a bit of an advantage, and so black has to be careful. Black is low on time. I guess I didn't notice that until now. White has 41 minutes to black's 3. So that could be playing a little role. This is poquito.
Just a little. Just a little.
Just a little. Yeah, this is not nice. So now this is we however we get to see the idea in action, right? Is can black get back to a8 now? After this, should he be going forward or should he be going back to a8? You know, it's kind of like one of those situations where your team is in a soccer match. Your team is 1 goal down. That's 5, or maybe a hockey same principle, and all men are moving forward, and the goalkeeper leaves their line to help bolster the attack. But you have to keep your eye to make sure somebody's going to lob something behind you and get a goal that way. So the king going forward may not be the right direction. Maybe the king should be thinking of going back with the idea of the draw we mentioned, or even playing b6 here to liquidate the forward a pawn and make things even easier. So like something like this.
Yeah, that's
might be a thing. So okay. Thomas definitely knows what time it is. All right. all is well in Black's kingdom.
I was impressed with how he handled that, because I'm gonna scroll back through, but I mean, pretty much most of this end game, he was very low on time, so he defended this quite well considering his time pressure.
Yes. Yeah, for most by the time the queens were exchanged, in fact, even before then, he hasn't been. So this is the last. At this point, after playing that move, so after this was the last time that Tom had more than 5 minutes based on his clock. And so the rest of this was played under significant time pressure.
Yeah, he basically played half the game with under 5 minutes and held a multiple piece end game with bishop versus knight. So that was good stuff.
Yes, quite. All right. And then it seems like Eric and Drew, they agreed to a draw in this position. I didn't intend that to be a pun either. Anyway, let's see. Are we done with all the games then?
I believe there is one more. There's the Ethan versus Michael Muff.
Where? Did we not finish?
Yeah, we left that off. We didn't quite finish this one. I think this was our featured player, Michael Muff. So we started this game first, and it was still pretty early on when we first looked at it.
Yes, and we were marveling at the octopus on b6.
Yes.
Did you
Yeah.
ever have the good fortune to see that famous, to go over that famous game between Karpov and Kasparov, where the octopus legend was born?
I
So
don't believe I have. No.
it was from the 1985 match in Moscow, and Karpov was still playing e4 as his first move more often than not, and Kasparov had come armed with an interesting pawn sacrifice on d5, and the end result was that Karpov won the pawn, but then Kasparov, playing the black pieces, ends up with a knight on d3 that was like spreading its tentacles like an octopus all over the board. And Karpov's pieces were just fumbling around trying to find a way to make any kind of sense. And it was a very nice game. But yes, that's where the octopus legend was born, as far as my understanding of chess history goes.
Did Kasparov win that game then?
Yes, it was. And I think I'm not sure. It might have been the 13th game or 16th game, maybe 13th game. No, he had something about 13 being his lucky number, if I remember properly. Anyhow, do we have a few minutes? Well, let's see this game first. So we had this happen, and now Black is not. It almost felt like Black was maybe getting a little bit liberated. And Ethan's idea with this to exchange off knight for bishop, leaving him with the bishop pair, looks interesting. The idea being that if he doesn't capture the knight, then the pawn on e5 falls. So versus bishop and knight. Tough. Right. You saw what Michael had up his sleeve. If Ethan decides to celebrate early with rook takes pawn, which he earned because he worked so hard to get it, then he gets the shocker. And all of a sudden, he's a piece down for a pawn. So he doesn't go for that. And instead, oh, okay. We do. Okay. So yeah, so if rook takes b7, then there's rook here, rook there, and then bishop here. So the pawn on b7 was poisoned, and hence Ethan had to run back. And then Michael tries to get active, but the way he does it seems a bit suspect because I think he's just giving up a pawn for nothing here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's just over. I wonder though, could he have kept things going just by coming back here and saying, okay, yeah, I'm okay with a draw if you're okay with a draw. Not that this is a forced draw. I mean, yeah.
I kind of like playing king f8 and king e8 because how White's going to win this game is, I presume, push where he has the majority. He's up a pawn. He's up a pawn on the queen side. So, stuff like b4 and b5 and c5. So maybe playing like king f8, king e8 for Black. Maybe playing knight f6, bringing his pieces to the queen side to defend against that pawn storm. But
Yes.
yeah, b5 just kind of
Yes.
blunders it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, even if it didn't blunder a pawn, you should always. I think you should always second guess making. I mean, it's an antiquated rule, but it's usually risky to move your pawns on the side you're weak, and definitely black was weaker on the queen side here. So even if it didn't lose a pawn, it'd still be a bit suspect. But now, black is effectively 2 pawns down, and they're 2 connected pass pawns. So this one, in the hands of a strong player like Ethan, the result is no longer in doubt. The pawns are just going to motor up the board. So, and yeah, it seems as if Mr. Muff resigned. So with that, I think we've got everything in.
Yeah, all 8 games recorded. We had 2 draws. Tamis Babcock and Serafima, and Drew Johnson and Eric. And wins for Eddie, Nathan, Dane, Thad, and Noah. So those were our leaders, or at least I think. Is every one of these games in the Premier, or does the DGT boards, does the top couple of DGT boards catch the Open? I think a couple of these games are.
Yeah, I mean,
because to play an Open, you need to be 1,600 plus. I mean, the Premier. So.
Okay. Yeah, I would think that. Actually, is there a way to? Oh, they don't have They wouldn't have the standings up on the Castle site yet.
Yeah, I looked earlier. They don't quite have them up yet for this month because
Okay.
they just started. But.
So yeah, well, a game, a round with interesting games all around, I think. And so we'll be looking forward to what happens next week. And I believe National Master Frankie Johnson is going to be making a return next week. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is correct.
Okay, so that'll be another interesting perspective. I was on the road last week and made it a point to watch the broadcast using the hotel's YouTube on TV, so the whole room could enjoy it. Yeah, so it was an interesting thing. I think Andy Hortolosa had this crazy game, if I remember properly.
He did. Very nice game.
So, all right. Well, I guess we're going to sign off. Or do we have any announcements?
Yeah. No announcements. As always, the stream is sponsored by Chess Goals. They're simple chess courses for non-grandmasters. And I'm not going to make the mistake I made last week. Last week I said it was a 10% coupon. It's a 30% coupon if you use the code CASTLE. So take advantage of that 30% discount at chessgoals.com. That's local national master Matt Jensen who creates the courses. So check that out. Take advantage of the coupon. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.